Welcome to the windy city of Chicago, which for years has been a veritable sportsman's paradise. Whether it's the Bears, the Bulls, the Blackhawks, or those baseball boys of summer, if you enjoy sports, this town has it all. This weekend, though, it's the boys at NASCAR who've come calling. And it all starts here today at a demanding 1.5-mile D-shaped oval in Joliet. We welcome you to our live ESPN coverage of NASCAR Nationwide Series final practice from Chicagoland Speedway here in Joliet, Illinois. This weekend officially marks the halfway point of the season, and thus far we have 11 different drivers who have visited victory lane in the first 17 races, including last week at Daytona when the reigning series champion Clint Bowyer finally, for the first time in his career, won on a restrictor plate racetrack. That crash there coming to the white flag, and it was Bowyer who would get the checkered flag and go to victory lane. Now, by virtue of that victory, Bowyer logged the best average finish during the first half of the year among the three drivers sharing the 29 ride between he and Jeff Burton and Stephen Light. So for the second half of the year, yeah, Jeff Burton's driving the car here, but it'll be Clint Bowyer's name on the top of the car. Well, from last year's champion to the battle for this year's championship, take a look. Kyle Busch, 172 points ahead of Carl Edwards, and then 96 points back of Edwards. In third spot is Brad Keselowski. 7 consecutive top 10 finishes for Brad. Hello, everyone. I'm Jerry Punch, and welcome inside our Craftsman Tech garage. Now, while the teams next door are slinging springs and shocks, getting their cars dialed in for this final practice, we're going to work inside here, taking our tools and our talent to try to talk a little setup and safety on this car. Now, we'll go down to Tim Brewer. Tim, this racetrack, the pavement now 9 years old, seeing some bumps out there. How are you going to dial us in?
Jerry, it's pretty tough. This racetrack sets up here in Chicago. Bad winters, really tough on the racetrack. But what we're going to do, we're going to work with springs, shock absorbers, sway bars, and even weight distribution to try to accent those bumps. Another thing we're going to do, we always talk about tire temperatures, camber, really utilizing the footprint of the tire. We're even going to be adjusting the toe in, the direction of the tire is pointed in, straight ahead, maybe out. But there again, I've got one of the best wheelmen in the business to help me with that, Rusty Wallace.
Thanks a lot, Tim. I really appreciate it. Well, folks, when I was driving the car, in order to run fast for me, I had to have everything inside this car fit me really good. The steering wheel had to be right, the seat belts had to be right, the mirror had to be right. I had to feel really comfortable so I could drive fast, run hard, and lean in this car. But there's one thing that really bugs me, one thing that if I got in a wreck, can I get out of this car? Because I've got the helmet on, I've got the head and neck restraint system, the air hose, the radios, all that stuff. Jerry, I'm scared of fire. I want to get out of this car if I do get into fire, and as you well know, fire is a bad deal.
Last week at Daytona, Friday night, Curtis Davis's Chevrolet erupts in flames. It took him 8 seconds to climb out of the race car. And fires can certainly be frightening for a lot of drivers, but for an underfunded team like Johnny Davis's, they could almost be devastating. For more, here's Andy Petrie.
Yeah, Doc, it was really a rough week for this Johnny Davis team at Daytona. They went into that race with such high hopes. They really put a lot of emphasis and effort into it, and it started off bad with qualifying with Mike Wallace. They blew an engine, and then they crashed both of their other cars. The other one, like you said, ended up in flames. But that's a tough thing to overcome, Johnny. Now, what has it been like this week trying to get your team rallied back to get here to Chicago?
It's been very little sleep at my shop. Me and all my boys has put in a lot of hard hours to get ready to come here, and we're hoping to have a good weekend, get them all three in the race, and get Danny a good car to race really hard and have a good finish here.
Okay, Doc, we're going to stay down here with these guys and kind of watch how they progress and how they're going to get these cars in the race. Now, this 0-1 car of Danny O'Quinn, now it's guaranteed a spot because of points, but Mike Wallace and Curtis Davis are going to have to qualify their cars in on speed. Back to you, Doc.
What a job by Johnny Davis to get all three of his race cars here to the racetrack in Chicago in just a short week here after all the problems they had in Daytona. Well, let's talk about a driver's anniversary in the garage area. Here's Shannon Spade.
Doc, it's been 2 years since Brad Keselowski took over as driver of this 88 car. So far this weekend, it has not been exactly a happy anniversary. The car was very loose in first practice, which translated to 23rd on the speed charts, and currently he's about 18th on the speed charts in this practice. The team worked feverishly in first practice. They were working during the break to try to figure out what they needed to tighten up this car. Now, one thing that could play in this 88's favor is the fact that teams in the Nationwide Series have been offered an extra set of tires for this weekend. I spoke with Series Director Joe Balish. He told me that because the track was so green going out in first practice, they saw some unusual tire wear, even some cording on the right-hand side. So this 88 car, along with 16 other teams in the garage, have taken NASCAR up on their offer, and they have an extra set of tires, especially in this practice today. Dave?
Shannon, in the first practice earlier today, David Reagan was the fastest of the Roush Fenway cars. And crew chief Mike Kelly told me one of the reasons was because they got through the bumps that Tim Brewer talked about in turns 1 and 2. But that created a second problem for them. David got into the turns so well that his speed coming off the corners was excessive. In fact, the car wouldn't turn well off the corners. So Mike Kelly said that's what we have to work on this session, this final practice. Because after all, we can't ask David to enter the corners slower, can we? Absolutely not, Doc.
Thanks, guys. Final practice underway here at Chicagoland Speedway. They will have a practice here for the next 90 minutes. And, of course, we'll have qualifying tomorrow coming your way. Now, our points leader, Kyle Busch, we told you that he was the winner of this race a year ago. Kyle, 172-point lead right now over Carl Edwards, and he has been awfully good on 1.5-mile racetracks. There was a lot coming your way from Chicago. Here we'll be here tomorrow for NASCAR Nationwide Series qualifying, 3 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN2. And, of course, live action flag to flag NASCAR Nationwide Series at Chicago, beginning with NASCAR Countdown tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern time on ESPN.
NASCAR Nationwide Series Final Practice, brought to you by Applebee's. It's a whole new neighborhood. And FreeCreditReport.com. Stay on top of your credit score and credit report at FreeCreditReport.com.
Final practice ongoing now. The earlier practice today, Rusty, Joey Logano was atop the speed charts. And here he is again in this session, and he's P1 in terms of speed.
I'll tell you, when practice is over, that first run, looks like he had a really good handle on the car, Jerry. They didn't have to do a whole lot. They went back and debriefed a little bit, decided on a couple small changes, but the car is so strong right now, it's unreal. But one thing I just noticed, he just came off of pit road, and look at the air dam on the left-hand side. He hit the ground and bent it under, and these drivers are going to have to be really careful tomorrow night when they hit pit road not to do that.
So we'll watch and we'll update how they fix that. Here's the 29 car, Jeff Burton, and he has not won here, but he's done everything but. He's finished third 5 times in 6 starts. Dave.
And guys, during the first practice session earlier today, Jeff Burton's crew chief Doug Randolph told me the car was loose going into the corner and tight across the middle. So they started this session with the following conditions. Listen to Jeff's report.
They're still loose, getting in a little bit, but it's really tight through the middle and under throttle. It hits the bumps harder now than it did. It bounces really hard on the bumps, coming out of the bump.
Good news, they're working on it. The bad news is they really haven't solved anything yet, and they spent some time underneath the car moving the rear end. Let's go back inside the Craftsman Tech Garage. Tim Brewer, which way would you move the rear end to try to lessen the loots in and increase not so tight across the middle?
That's not a big problem. What you want to do, folks, this is the trailing arm bracket that's mounted in the center of the car where the trailing arm's hooked to. You've got an old style way of moving it. You can actually rotate the eccentric, moving the trailing arm forward or moving it back, or you can use the shims. This is a more accurate way of moving them because you can move it within a 32nd of an inch. But if it me, I would roll the eccentric forward about 1/8 of an inch, moving that right rear wheel forward, directing the rear end to the bottom of the racetrack. You do that, it's going to tighten the car up.
Thanks, Tim. And Rusty, this is a brand new, this is the newest chassis out of the Richard Childress stable. It's the newest version of their chassis, new car, new body, and they're still experimenting on trying to dial all this new stuff in.
Well, sure, these guys all have really good cars. There's no doubt about that, and they just need to stay working on this car because it was bouncing a lot on them. They think they can figure that out by softening the springs back up, working on the shocks. On the other hand, Brad Keselowski right here, he's been struggling just a little bit in practice, not to where he wants. He's 18th in practice times right now. But you know, knowing Brad like we know him, every time he starts this race, it seems like he always rockets to the front every time.
Yeah, he finished 4th and 3rd in this race a year ago and led 4 laps. And you heard Shannon talking about the tires cording up. I realize there's not a lot of rubber on the racetrack. Should they be concerned about that this early on?
Well, I really don't think they need to be concerned about this tire problem. I mean, as far as cording on the right rear a little bit, the track has set a long time. It is a little bit green, and Goodyear does realize that. Although I will tell you, it's a big surprise to me that NASCAR said, hey, if you want an extra set of tires, we're we're going to give it to you because they're trying to save money right now and giving more tires out as a way to spend more money.
Right now, Brad being shown 18th on the speed charts here in this final session. Now, the race on Friday night will take place about, 7 o'clock local time, 8 o'clock Eastern time. So they're still a little bit early as far as being able to get the temperature and sun set up for race conditions.
Yeah, right now over here in Chicago, it's about 6:30, about 6:15, 6:30 local time around here, somewhere in that range. But just like you say, this race is going to start during the day and it's going to end at night. And the track conditions are really going to change a lot. They're going to tighten up mostly. Every time I talk to a driver, they say, boy, when the sun goes down and the track cools off, the cars tend to get tighter. Now, some of them do get looser. I realize that with these new setups, but mostly tight. And so they got to get their car set up to handle this day and night condition.
These guys are trying to get a car set up. How about guys that worked all the way just to get cars to the racetrack? The Johnny Davis team down there, we talked about all the problems they had. Here's the 0-1 of Danny O'Quinn. Andy?
Yeah, Doc, you see the guys here changing the front sway bar on Danny O'Quinn's car. He was loose in and tied off, so they're going to change that bar, go down on size, give it a shot here to see if that makes it any better. But you were hearing Jeff Burton talk about the track and how rough it was. I talked to Kyle Busch and Jason Ratcliffe just before this practice started, and he said that the track is a lot rougher than it was last year. Kyle did, and so they're struggling a little bit with that, and they're going to work on that in this practice. But Jason Ratcliffe says they managed their tires because they knew that this tire wear was going to be a problem. So they managed their tires in that first practice. In other words, they didn't run as many laps as they probably would have liked to. And the way they got rewarded was NASCAR gave everybody else another set of tires. So it really didn't help them much to save them. But we'll send it up here to the Craftsman Tech Garage and Tim Brewer.
Thanks, Andy. You might recognize this old bar here, Andy. I think it's one of yours. But anyway, the front sway bar actually fits right beneath the front steering gear, and it goes across to the right front to the left front. Runs back through here with a sway bar arm affixes to the lower control arm. But what that does, it's really an anti-sway bar, meaning it controls the roll in the car. Then if you can control the roll in the car, keep the air down on the ground, you're going to get a lot more downforce, and the car's going to run a lot quicker.
Tim, you're exactly right. You're going to get a lot more downforce with that sway bar because the car is going to be lower. But one problem you're going to have with that is going to make this car bounce more. It makes the car ride rougher every time I've done that. So it's going to have to be a deal where they can get a small bar, but yet a big bar, adjust that left front spring because these guys are all coil binding right now. And the more they coil bind that left front spring, the rougher these cars are going to ride. So, I mean, if I was me, if I was out there doing this thing, I'd be working with the shock absorber, the left front spring, and the sway bar, trying to marry all three of those together to get a better ride.
You're going to have an accent program right there. You're exactly right, because I know you're going to put more rebound over here, and you're going to offset it somewhere else. Knowing you would probably left the bar in it, moved the track bar a little bit, adjusted the wedge, and put some rebound at left front.
There's a lot of things you can change about that, Doc.
A lot of adjustments going on in the garage, Eric. Coil binding, changing the bar up front, trying to get the car comfortable for the driver, trying to get it comfortable for the tire wear here. Back with more live coverage in a moment.
How do I like my pizza? Meatball and mushroom.
Definitely I like pepperoni and green olives. I don't know why no one wants to share it with me.
Black olives and mushrooms, my favorite.
I don't eat any vegetables on my pizza. That's kind of a big no.
I like my pizza, when I do eat it, is just loaded with everything that they got.
It's got to be thin crust, none of that Chicago style stuff. Thin crust, New York style, that's the way you do it.
Those great pizzas here in Chicago, and here's the incredible pizza car. That is Scott Lagasse Jr., and he talked about how he likes his pizza. He should know. He's been around some pretty incredible pizza places over the years and having a pretty good season thus far as a rookie here in Nationwide.
Boy, there's no doubt about that. He's having much better year this year than he had last year. It's a good-looking car, too. I like the paint scheme on the side of it. But, you know, Jerry, they got a little involvement going on with Joe Gibbs Racing, hanging bodies and working on some suspension things. And that has really helped this team. It's very visible what's happened. Last year, a decent team. This year, much, much better team.
This team announced, by the way, that later in the year they're going to run two cars. Justin Lofton from the ARCA Remax series will join Scott Lagasse Jr. at Michigan, Charlotte, Texas, and Homestead. So they will run two cars for the last 4 races of the year for those 4 races involved. And, of course, Justin running for Eddie Sharp Racing, already 2 wins in 2 years and a lot of top 5s in ARCA. Talking about the number 2, well, there is only one 2-time winner here at Chicagoland Speedway. and it is the two-time champion, Kevin Harvick.
I'll tell you, Harvick's really good right here. I mean, he's won this thing twice. He loves this racetrack. 2 times in a Nationwide Series, 2 times in a Cup Series that he's won. I talked to Kevin earlier, and he just really likes his Chevrolet at this track. It's real bumpy, real slick. And it seems like every time he comes here, he gets this whole thing running good.
Kevin Harvick said in his interview this week, he said, this is a track where I back out really early and then I jump in the throttle in the middle of the corner and try to drive it wide open, unlike other mile-and-a-half racetracks.
Well, you know, you asked me about that earlier, Jerry, in a show we were doing earlier. You know, what makes this so good for Kevin, and why is it so many first-time winners can win at this racetrack? You know, we're going down into turn 1 right now. Kevin's getting ready to push this baby right on the bottom. And what happens when you get to the back straightaway right here, there is no arch in this back, I mean, it's no straightaway, it's an arch. You see that straightaway going out in a big arch? It gives the drivers more room off of turn 2. And Kevin really understands how to work this track and take advantage of that big arch in the back straightaway. It helps him win these races.
If you'd like to ask Kevin how he does it and what the secret is, well, why don't you log on to ESPN.com. Kevin is our in-race reporter. Ask the driver, maybe have your question answered by Kevin Harvick during the pre-race tomorrow. We'll ask him one of our questions and maybe one of yours as well. Now, unique relationship beginning this weekend between Kevin Harvick Incorporated and this car of Stephen Wallace.
Yeah, this particular car Stephen's driving right now, really, if you pulled the wrappers off and underneath it, it says number 33, Kevin Harvick. I have put a program together with Kevin Harvick, a strategic alliance to share technical stuff and try to get our cars running better. So this is the first week of the number 66 and the 62 car of Brendan Gaughan and Stephen and Kevin Harvick all to work together. So, and when practice was over this morning, Kevin was 3rd quick and Stephen was 4th, so it looked like it was working, Jerry.
This is the car that Tony Stewart, by the way, drove and finished 2nd at Texas early in the year. It was the 33 car then for KHI, so a little cooperative effort there. There goes the 33 and the 66 coming down to head back to the garage area. Here comes the 2-time winner this year already, Greg Biffle, in the 16 car. Biffle has led the most laps in both times he's won this year at Las Vegas on the mile-and-a-half track and at Phoenix. And by the way, hard to believe that Jack Roush has never won a race at Chicagoland Speedway.
That's very hard to believe because the Fords are usually really strong here in practice at the Chicagoland Speedway. So I think they'll get that fixed no problem. And, you know, we talked earlier about how Carl Edwards is such a second-half driver, and this is the track that Carl needs to turn this year around. I mean, he already started at Milwaukee a couple weeks ago. I think he can do it here, too. I really do.
Carl has a pole here, but he does not have any wins. He's finished 2nd here once a couple of years ago. Shannon.
Well, Carl Edwards was also one of the drivers who participated in a tire test here at this track back on May 18th. Excuse me. The first practice, the 60 car was loose. The team did make some changes. I spoke with Dan Stillman. He said, you know, it wasn't anything major, nothing that we would, you know, look at as being major wholesale changes of the 60 car. They did say that they got it to where they wanted it. Now, Carl Edwards came in pretty early during the run. They did work on the car some more. Right now, Carl Edwards seems pretty happy.
Shannon, if you're a Carl Edwards fan and you're worried about where Carl is as far as the season is concerned, he's 2nd in the point standings, only has won once. Take a look at what happened a year ago. At this time, coming into Chicago last year, he was 3rd in the points, 218 back. But he went on a tear and won 6 more times and came within 21 points of winning the championship this year. 1 win. He's 2nd in the points, only 172 back, so he's closer than he was a year ago.
Jerry, I don't know why this happens with this team, but it's obvious they're much, much better in the second half than the front. And there's a lot of teams that do the same thing. They seem like they just can't get it figured out early. They keep gaining knowledge, and boy, that second half, they take off like a rocket. And we've seen that year after Edwards has done this a lot. And I think this Milwaukee win he had a couple weeks ago is the start of that.
Well, we're going to see who has the rocket coming here tomorrow. We have live coverage of NASCAR Nationwide Series qualifying 3 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN2. And then, of course, NASCAR Nationwide Series at Chicago beginning with NASCAR Countdown at 7:30 Eastern time on ESPN. NASCAR now presented by 5 Hour Energy, Saturday 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2, sort of the pre-race edition, setting a stage for the Cup race later that night. IndyCar action. You want some open wheel action at Toronto? Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern on ABC. How big was that win for Dale Coyne last week at Watkins Glen? And of course, NHRA action coming your way Sunday at 7 on ESPN2. Joey Logano back here on the track for the final practice session for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. He has been atop the speed charts in both sessions today. And let's listen into his radio.
It was definitely better. But if I pick up the gas too early, it almost straightens the car up, takes the yaw out of it. I get loose. Probably never pick it back tight. I get tied off. Just trying to bring it back to the gas. If I wait on it a little bit more, it's going to last longer and it turns better.
Well, guys, listening in on the radio, the other teams are all right now chasing that 20 car. You did hear them talking about some of the conditions. They started off this practice with a brand new set of shocks, and although they're trying to adjust on that car, both crew chief Dave Rogers and driver Joey Logano are very happy. They have had an eventful day. In the first practice, they had no fuel pressure, so they changed the fuel pump, fuel cable, and fuel filter. They figured it out. That's a lot of F's. They did figure it out, and right now, Joey Logano has been where he's been all practice, right on top.
So they have been busy down there in that 20 foot all day. This is Joey Logano's debut, by the way, at Chicagoland Speedway in NASCAR. He did not run a nationwide or cup race a year ago. So he's making the best of it. You see he is, in terms of laps run, he is atop the chart there as well, trying to get as many laps on the racetrack as he can. There's Brian Vickers, Kyle Busch, Trevor Bayne, and Scott Lagasse Jr. We were talking about some of the scary moments last week in Daytona, and we had two of them during the race. Early on, a fire involving Kerry Earnhardt, and late, the one involving Curtis Davis. Now, we've got the clocks running. Watch how long it takes Curtis Davis to get out of the car. 5.8 seconds, and he bails out of the race car. Meanwhile, the clock is still ticking. Kerry Earnhardt does not run a lot of races. He works for DEI now in an administrative capacity, so he isn't in the car very much. He is struggling to get out of the race car. Lots of smoke he's inhaling inside the car, and he finally has to get some help and get the helmet off as we go to almost 26 plus seconds, Rusty, to get out of the car. Now, Rusty, take us through the steps of getting yourself out of the race car like Kerry was trying to do.
Well, Doc, the first thing I'm going to do is try to keep the car under control. Don't lose control of the car. Keep driving it. My spotter's helped me. He's talking to me on the radio. He's trying to get me to the bottom of the track. Okay, I see fire coming out of the car right now. The first thing I'm going to do is bang the fire bottle. Pull the pin, hit the fire bottle. It's going to fly off. There's going to be smoke all over this car trying to extinguish the fire. I'll be on the brakes real hard. Spotter's talking to me. Try to get this car stopped. As I get it stopped, I'm going to reach up here, bang the window net down. It's going to fall out or it might fall in. It doesn't make a difference. It's going to come down. As I get slower, I'm going to take my right hand, I'm going to reach down, and I'm going to pop the safety harness loose. As the harness comes loose, I'm just going to sling the belts. And just about the time I get really slow, I'm going to reach down, grab this wheel, throw this thing up out of the way, and I'm going to start bailing out of this thing. I'm not going to worry about my radio cords because I'm going to jerk my head really hard, and it's going to break them. And I don't care if I get out this way, as long as I get out, I'm going to get out and just start pulling myself out of this thing. And trust me, man, I've been on fire before, and you don't like that stuff at all. I get scared quick, and I'm gone.
Indeed, it can be scary. Of course, the drivers now have helmets with vent hoses taped to the back, and that was a problem Curtis Davis had in Daytona. They had taped the vent hose to the back of his helmet. He couldn't get it disconnected, so he had to just snap it off the back of his helmet as he had the window net down, and then just dives out of the car. They got the Hans device, they got the radio wires, and he just dives out to get away from the car that is on fire as the fire trucks approach. And there is the helmet in the setup. You see they have helmet supports on both left and right side and all the wires and cables. It is very difficult. You can take your time getting in, but it's very difficult to get out in a hurry. Here's the 38 car. Jason Leffler on the racetrack. Leffler, who had that series of 11 consecutive top 10 finishes, snapped last week when he lost third gear in the final laps of Daytona and brought that car home in 19th position. Also announced last week that, by the way, in 2010, he will drive 27 of 35 races in this car. The other 8 races in this car will be driven by Casey Kane, and Jason will drive the full season, but he will fill in the 10 car, so he gets to still go for the championship. See those top 10 finishes? 13 top 10s. He's finished second twice. In fact, this is one of the cars he finished second in at Darlington, and laps run 99.8%. The only laps he didn't run all year was the 5 laps they held him in the season opener at Daytona when he and Stephen Wallace got together and they had a little aggressive driving penalty for Jason.
Oh yeah, I remember that exactly. Those two got together, came around the back straightaway during the Daytona 500 weekend. and they held them those 5 laps. But, you know, Jerry, this is a team that I look at pretty well every week, and every week it seems like they're solid. You can always count they're a solid top 12, top 10, and occasionally top 5 team. Jason's done a great job in this car. This Toyota's been running good, and the 32 car is teammate, and occasionally that 10 car that runs with them also. It seems like all those cars out of Braun Racing are always pretty strong.
And people are asking, well, why, if Jason is so good in the car, why would they suddenly put Casey Kane in the car for 8 races in 2010, and it's a matter of sponsorship?
It's just all about money, sponsorship, like you said. Boy, if you got the money, it really helps. Shannon?
Well, let's talk about the 18, Kyle Busch. First practice, Jason Ratcliffe told me that this car was really loose. You see some video right there. The car was in just a little bit ago. They made front shock changes, spring changes, but they also made a change to the rear spoiler. Now, I did ask Jason Ratcliffe why they were making that change. He said they were changing the angle, and I said, well, why? He goes, I can't tell you. So maybe Tim Brewer in the tech garage can tell us.
Shannon, I can tell you exactly what he's trying to do. These cars are limited horsepower, but to get rid of some drag, what you want to do is lay the spoiler down. NASCAR is going to give you the variance of a few degrees back here in the rear of the car, but in the wind tunnel, we actually take a turnbuckle and manipulate it. You can jack this spoiler up about 3 to 5 degrees. It reduces the drag on the car, but it increases downforce on the rear, and that's what he's doing. Increasing the angle of the spoiler puts downforce on the rear of the car.
And Tim, the term you devised last week was stability, I believe, for the back of the car there. Be able to get the.
It works too, Jerry.
All right. And there is Jason Ratcliffe on the top watching his car go by and to be able to get that car dialed in.
I tell you, this rear spoiler stuff that Tim was just talking about, him and I had a conversation yesterday. You know, you can bring that spoiler down and run faster in the straightaways, but then you run slower in the corners. And it seems like every single time I've tried to release these spoilers, in the long run, it always kills me. So that's one thing I try to toy with, but it seems like it very seldom works.
Okay.
18, Kyle Busch on the racetrack, and down in the Johnny Davis garage, Andy, looks like they're getting ready to make one more run.
Yeah, they are. This 0-1 is it's been a little bit tight, Doc. They were loose earlier. Now they've got it too tight, so they're raising the track bar up. We've also got Mike Wallace in the 0 car. He's out probably making his last run. They're in qualifying trim only, but they only have 1 set of tires that they can really use because of finances. It's not really about how many sets NASCAR will give you. For this team, it's about money, and they just don't have the finances and the funding to be able to just throw tires on their cars. So Mike Wallace is going to make this last run. I talked to him. He said they'll just have to take the data that they've learned in these couple of runs and then make their decisions for tomorrow when they qualify. So, you know, it's just tough the way these guys race. They race hard, they work hard, but they don't have a lot of money to throw at these cars, Doc.
It is amazing, Andy. Johnny Davis has 6 total full-time employees. 6, folks. And he has 3 race cars at the racetrack. You do the math, that's only 2 per car. How in the world, Rusty, can you do it? But somehow they make it work.
Well, Jerry, honestly, you can't do it that way. But he's working their brains out. And, you know, as you were talking about these guys making the last runs and that Mike Wallace is out there. I looked at Mike. He's 30th quick right now. That's a pretty good speed for that car. But, boy, all they're trying to do is just get him to run fast enough to make the race. And, you know, I guess you're right. There's 2 employees standing right there with 1 car. So 6 for 3 cars. I've never heard that done, but looks like these guys are getting it done.
See the Johnny Davis team, 34 starts, best finish 18, 3 times for Danny O'Quinn, who was a 2006 Rookie of the Year. Johnny Davis, former crew chief years ago for James Hilton and Jimmy Means. He's doing it the hard way with blood and sweat. We invite you to join us for live flag-to-flag coverage of the NASCAR Nationwide Series from Chicagoland Speedway tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. There have been 7 different winners in 8 races. Kevin Harvick, the only driver to win more than once, and there have been 4 first-time winners. Could we see another new face break through here tomorrow night? Here's the 16 of Greg Biffle rolling in. Let's get an update on him.
And guys, this afternoon I talked with his crew chief, Eddie Pardue, and he said when we come to a track like this, there's 2 different Greg Biffles. There's the 2-lap Greg Biffle, and there's the 5-lap Greg Biffle. The 5-lap Greg Biffle is happy about his race car and at least stays out there for 5 laps to get a good feel for it. The 2-lap Greg Biffle, well, he pulls it right in because he's not happy with his race car. Right now, we definitely have a 5-lap Greg Biffle, but early on today, Eddie Pardue told me 2 laps and he was in this garage because during the first practice, the car was extremely loose. Greg could hardly drive it. Now, he's second fastest on the chart. They've made big changes to this race car and gotten it to where he's now a 5-lap biffle. Andy?
Dave, I don't know how many laps Ryan Newman is, but he's been in and out of this garage area quite a few times. They've really been chasing this car in this racetrack because, you know, the grip level and the bumps. I mean, this track has gotten so much more bumpy, talking to all the drivers that I've talked to down here. And so they've changed the right front spring. They changed the nose weight on the car. And this last change, they put a left front shock on it to try to help the car over the bumps. And they're all talking about it getting into turn 1. That's where the biggest problem is. I don't know if you guys can see that on the screen there or not, but where they're really struggling with the bumps is getting into turn 1. Doc?
Yeah, Rusty, let's talk a little bit about this. Thank you, Andy, about what's happening at this racetrack. It's aging, and people are complaining the track, we're losing grip, and we're getting more bumps. And at these speeds, you got to be able to keep the car, I guess, on the bottom of the racetrack.
Well, absolutely, but this is the classic case of an older racetrack. The older these tracks get, the more things like this happen, Doc. Generally, these bumps happen over tunnels, where the track's got a tunnel that goes underneath of it. But it's happening here at Chicago on both ends of the racetrack. And you can see some high, and you can see some black marks on the racetrack where the cars have been bottoming out, things like that. But hey, they just not got to negotiate. It's the same for everybody else.
Ryan Newman, a 2-time pole winner. He is the only driver to win more than 1 pole here. He has led the most laps twice. Has yet to win here in the Nationwide car, although he did win here in the NASCAR Sprint Cup car here back in 2003. This is the same car, by the way, that Dale Earnhardt Jr. drove to a 13th place finish at Charlotte back in May.
Doc, I tell you what, these springs and shocks that Tim's got laying right here, it's one of the most important things in the world, this particular racetrack. I mean, look at this shock right here. We can take this, and I can adjust it. I can crank this knob right here. I can work with rebound. I can work with compression. There's a lot of things I can do with the shocks. We can also get inside the shocks and rebuild them, Tim. Make some changes right there also.
When Rusty's talking about a shock absorber and how we build it, we can build it compression adjustable, meaning we can control how the shock collapses, or we can control the rebound, and that's how the shock comes out. Control the speed, if you will. The way we do that, we've got an adjustment right here. But as we turn the adjustment, it turns a pin in the shaft right here. It opens and closes an orifice in here. That changes the fluid rate. So when you change the fluid rate, you change the characteristics of the shock. But like Rusty says, this is an installed inspection height spring. But when you go through the corner, the spring is literally like this. So the only thing you got to rely on is the shock absorbers and the deflection in the sidewall of the tires, and that package has got to work hand in hand.
Well, Tim, just like you said, we can adjust it with this rebound number right here. Let's take a listen to the 5 radio of Ryan Newman, see what he's got to say about this.
Is the bouncing what's hurting your entry? No, not so much that. Just that, like travel delta, I guess it would be, that makes it feel like it wants to pull to the left pretty hard on just a slight braking, or just, you know, a hard decel when the lockers unlocked.
Let's take a look at the car getting down into turn 3 and 4 right here. It's right on the bottom of the racetrack, and there's bumps down there, and that's really bothering Ryan. He made a comment that under braking, the car tries to pull to the left, and it's kind of darting around a little bit. And when that's happened to me before, there's been too much weight on one corner versus the other, or there's been too much caster split between the right front and the left front wheel, and it could be at one of other of those things. There's many things that can cause a car to pull to the left, dip and dive like he's complaining, but these guys are smart enough that they know which area to go to fix it. I would look at the caster first, and maybe a little bit too much, I don't know, maybe a little bit too much wedge in the car, Jerry, causing that problem also.
Another thing you're going to look at, Rusty, to get through the bumps, you know it, it's an old trick. The sway bar joint right here is hooked up direct, but when you hit those bumps, both wheels are solid. Put this old chain over there on the right front, it's going to make those front wheels independent. You might like it getting through those bumps.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can put that chain on there for some racetracks and make it work. And when I drove, I used a chain everywhere.
Yeah.
And Shannon?
Well, you guys, following the troubles of the 5 car, further down in the garage, this 88 car, Brad Keselowski, his teammate, they are not having much luck either. I told you at the beginning of the practice session how they were really, really loose. They are still struggling with that. I talked to Brad. He told me that they are really loose in the turns, but nothing has gotten better. Pops told me, his crew chief, Tony Uri Sr., that they made 7 changes to that car on the last run, and Brad said he did not feel one thing different. So right now, that 88 car really struggling with loose conditions.
So struggles continue for Brad Keselowski, and as you said, it is not a happy anniversary. 2 years ago, he began the relationship with Junior Motorsports, and right now they have an uphill battle to fight at Chicago. The sights and sounds of the windy city of Chicago, steeped in so much sports history and tradition. Holy cow, we love to come here. We love to come watch sports, and we love to come bring the NASCAR boys to race at Chicagoland Speedway. Final practice session ongoing for the NASCAR Nationwide Series here in Joliet, Illinois. In the top of the speed charts, it is Joey Logano, Greg Biffle, Mike Bliss, Kyle Busch, and Brian Vickers. They're the top 5. Last week, a little bit of news for the 99 car. That is Trevor Bayne. They added 4 races for the 18-year-old because they have been so impressed, Michael Waltrip Racing that is, with what this young man has done thus far.
Well, he's done a good job. Every time we watch him, he's always fast. He's been qualifying real well. Had a little bit of problems in the races, Jerry, just like all drivers do. But all in all, I've been pretty impressed with Trevor Bayne. There's just no doubt about that. But, you know, he's had some people helping him financially to keep going in this thing. Now they just got to find some good sponsors to keep going.
Yeah, Michael Waltrip was scheduled to drive these races, but they gave him now to Trevor Bayne. He will go to not only here to Chicago, to Michigan, Atlanta, and Texas, along with the other ones, Gateway, ORP, Iowa, Bristol, and Phoenix, for a young man who has a back-to-back 12th place finishes and only his fourth start in the series. For more, let's go down to Dave.
And Doc, with the addition of those races you talked about, it does give him another 8 or 9 times we're going to see Trevor this season. Jerry Baxter's crew chief talked to me earlier about Trevor's progress today. He said, we were really, really fast. And he kind of stopped right there and said, so you pulled him back, didn't you? He goes, yeah. The thing was so fast and Trevor was getting so much speed. We wanted to make sure he didn't do any damage to the race car. His goal is to get laps in this thing. They found a good balance. They found speed. And the last thing they've been trying to tweak here in final practice is getting that car to turn coming off the corner. They've thrown some parts at it, made some adjustments, and that's what they're trying to give Trevor for this final practice.
Very impressive young man. They also love the fact that he gives great feedback from the car. Here's the 10 car. That is David Rudiman. Of course, he was the pole sitter for this race a year ago, led 83 laps, finishing 5th. And this car will be split for the remainder of the year of several drivers. Of course, Brian Vickers in this car, David Rudiman. Bernie Lamar was released from this team, will no longer be driving for the operation. So, again, multiple drivers in one pretty good race car.
Jerry, I'm sorry. I'm not used to seeing Rudiman driving this 10 car. I usually see him in the Aaron's car, the one that Trevor Bayne's driving right now. But, you know, this guy loves the race. Got an opportunity to drive this 10 car, and right now he's 13th quick on the track at this moment. Doing a pretty good job with it.
This, by the way, we talked about David Rudiman and how good he's been at this racetrack. Let's see how he's done here in the practice runs, going out for the different sets of laps.
Yeah, you can see he's went out probably the same set of tires most of the times right here. The first run right off the bat, 31.68 seconds. Pretty good lap right there. But let's look all the way down to run 6 there, 31.84. Fell off a little bit. That's real respectable lap time. So he's definitely in the hunt right now from what I'm seeing.
This 10 car, by the way, last week driven by Casey Kane at Daytona, logged the best finish for this car for the year. He finished 5th at Daytona, and Casey Kane will be back in this car 3 more times for the year, including at Bristol, Tennessee. Let's see how the 5 car has improved. Now, they were going to go back in and try to work on some of the chassis things that were creating a problem for him entering turn 1.
Yeah, one thing we need to take a look at is the nose of this race car to see if it jumps around in the bumps or not. If it stays pretty smooth, I'd say they made some big improvements, because the bumps in this racetrack have really been playing havoc. Let's take one little look right here, right on the bottom of the white line, letting the car drift out pretty nice. Tell you what, that looks pretty good. I've heard they put a big sway bar in the car, and that'll keep that left front air dam down. And like we said earlier, Tim Brewer and I did, you don't want to go too much, but if you put a big bar and the driver likes it, that's a good thing. If it starts bouncing, it's going to tear the tires up. I see a little bit of bouncing in turn 1 and 2, but all in all, I think that's a better change, guys. It looks pretty good to me. And right now, Newman's 16th quick. Not a great lap, but pretty stable.
Third fastest on the racetrack is the 1 car of Mike Bliss. There is Bliss, the former Truck Series champion, and Mike Bliss won a race here, by the way, in 2003 at Chicagoland, the IROC race, the International Race of Champions. He beat Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Mark Martin. So Bliss already has a history of wins here. In fact, we'll turn back and show you the final lap of the International Race of Champions. What a great series, and Mike Bliss was in this series by virtue of being the reigning NASCAR Camping World Truck Series champion.
Man, I tell you, that IROC series, I used to race in that. I think I won the championship in that 92, man. That was so much fun to run those cars. They were fast, they were identical, they handled good. But Bliss deserved that day, that's for sure. He had a good car.
He's been pretty good here in the Nationwide car as well, Rusty. He's had a top 10 back in 2003. Just missed the top 10 with the 11th place finish in 2008. Now, we were talking about sway bar adjustments, big sway bars, and what you can do. Let's go back over to our Craftsman Tech Garage and Tim.
What you're trying to do is fine-tune a race car, but there's something that you don't understand about a big sway bar. Look at this sway bar right here. Get the camera guy to zoom in on the scales right here. This sway bar weighs 36.7 pounds. Look at this sway bar right here. This is the same bar. It's hollow. So what we're trying to do is have the same roll rate, but still yet we're getting weight off the front of the car. And Rusty, he's big on that because that weight, I finally taught that man over all these years, where the weight goes is on a truck. But the front sway bar goes right here. But light components, it's one of Andy Petrie's old tricks also. But this sway bar right here weighs half of what the other one does.
So, Tim, they took both of those sway bars, and the one that's really heavy, 36.7 pounds, it's a certain rate if you twist it. Now, this lighter bar that's hollow, they've been able to use different materials to achieve the same thing. Is that right?
The same thing, because what we do, the outer circumference is what you're after. That's the roll rate, the resistance. But still yet, we don't want to increase the nose weight because you're trying to get the car to turn. Anytime you put the heavy bar in, you increase the weight on the front wheels, and that's something you don't want to do when you're trying to get the car to turn in the center of the corner.
All about keeping the weight down and somehow still keeping the nose down on the race car. Here's a 62 car, Brendan Gaughan. And Brendan has been very good on 1.5-mile racetracks this year. He finished second at Charlotte and fourth at Kentucky in this same race car.
Yeah, that's a really good car right there, but he's been struggling big time in practice for some reason. They've changed a lot of springs and shocks, and it looks like the car is getting better and better to me right now. It's got a pretty good attitude as far as the nose being down and riding the bumps, but see how high he's running on the racetrack? That's characteristic of a Brendan. He loves to run the second and third lane, and knowing him, he's just trying to get that thing working good where he knows he's going to race it at.
You mean he's got a good attitude?
He's got a pretty good attitude on the track, and the car's got a good attitude right now also, man. There's no doubt about that.
I agree. Let's take a look at the Rebestos Rookie of the Year point standings, and that is where Brendan Gaughan right now sits second, just 6 points back of Justin Allgaier. There's Michael McDowell, who's here, by the way. We'll update him in a moment. Lagacy and Michael Lynette in the top 5. Sun setting here in Chicago, but the NASCAR Nationwide cars are continuing their final practice session. A lot of work going on in the garage area. Everyone trying to get dialed in for qualifying and practice. Now, right now, Joey Logano, who was the fastest car in the earlier practice, is still atop the speed charts. There's Logano making his debut at this racetrack, a 2-time winner this year. This is the car, by the way, he set on the pole with and won with at Kentucky, which is also another 1.5-mile racetrack. Well, from this team, it has all the bells and whistles they need to a team that's just looking to be able to borrow a whistle down where Andy is.
Yeah, Doc, these guys down here with Daniel Quinn are changing the Ackerman. You know, there's a lot of teams down here really scrambling, really making a lot of changes on these cars, and these guys are changing what's called Ackerman, and that is the rate of which both front wheels steer, okay? So what they're doing is they're going to make the right front tire steer a little bit more than the left front tire to try to get a little bit more grip out of the front end. You see these guys are resetting the toe now once they change the slug. There's a slug in the spindle where they can change that ratio of how much that tire is actually turning when Daniel Quinn turns the steering wheel. Doc?
So, in fact, they may not have a lot of people or a whole lot of money, but these guys are working as if they're a 7 to 10 or 12-man crew trying to get as much as they can get done here in this session, Rusty.
They're working really hard at it, Doc. There's just no doubt about that. Andy talked about that Ackerman right there. You know, a long time ago, you never used to hear about that at all, but Goodyear's got so much technology, so much information they're giving to the teams now about slip angle, and they can work on that slip angle and figure it out with Ackerman, make the car actually turn better. Andy, one question I got for you is the temperature. I'm you know, looking outside here a little bit. You've got some good camera shots here. It looks to me like the sun's going down, and we know that, man, when this track changes temperature, that these cars handle way different. What are you hearing down there right now?
Well, Rusty, you can feel the temperature coming down. It's still not nearly as cool as it'll be tomorrow night when they race, so they're really paying attention to how the car is changing. In other words, which direction the car is going in, so they'll know how to adjust. And then once they kind of get a read on the track temp when they really are going to be racing, they'll know kind of which way their car is going to go. But you're right, Rusty, this is a very critical time during practice to know just how you're going to race tomorrow night.
Andy, one more question I got for you about this particular conditions right now. You know, a long time ago, every time the track got cooler, the cars always got tighter. But I have been hearing a lot of cars say when it gets cooler, they're actually getting looser. Is that because of this coil bind setup we're hearing about?
You know, you're probably right, Rusty, because I'm the same way. You know, it used to be years ago that you could almost count on it, that the track gets cooler, car gets tighter. But it's just not been the case. We've seen that with the Cup cars. We see it with the Nationwide Series cars. I thought maybe it had something to do with the new car, but we see it in both garage areas. So I think it does have something to do with, I know it has a lot to do with the tire construction and compounds, but also to do with some of the setups. A lot of crazy setups that people run today that we never would have thought of years ago.
Well, I think we need to keep an eye on that right now because there's no consistent thing these cars are doing nowadays. But take a look at a 33 car here, Kevin Harvick. What he's doing right now, he's got a pretty good handle in a race car, and it looks like they're changing all 4 shocks all the way around in this car. Looks like their shock guys have built some new shocks. They're going to try them. Actually, it looks like they're putting a different brand of shock absorber on there also, and they're going to try something different. Again, pretty good car right now. They're top 10. And take a look at the 18 car. They're doing the same thing. They've got, you know, like we said earlier, the racetrack's really bumpy, Jerry. They're trying to do everything they can to get a better ride through these bumps. And if they can do that, the car's going to handle better as the night goes on.
Well, all this changing will lead us to our Ask the Analyst question, and we will do that right now. As we have Bruce from Gaston, Alabama, wants to know what's the biggest thing the crews can change on these cars to make them handle better here in this session, guys?
Well, one thing I've got to say right now about quick changes is the tire pressure. I'm a big tire pressure guy. I do not like a lot of tire pressure in the tires. A lot of guys do that. That's the first thing I'm going to work with. Make sure I got my tire pressure set correctly. The other thing would be the wedge in the car. How much wedge? You can screw the left rear and the right rear jack bolt up and down. That'll control that. And also the track bar. So there's 3 things that are always in my mind, Tim.
The biggest smile I've ever seen on a driver's face when he says, give me 4 new tires and let's try it again. You know, that 4 tires is going to make everything a lot better. But still yet, you know yourself, sometimes you just get on a set of tires and you practice, you jack yourself right out of the ball game. You come in, put 4 tires on it, put it back like you had it, thing drives like it's on a string.
Well, you can run forever, just like you said, and the car's not handling at all. And you can put new tires on it, it takes off. And a lot of times, too, the camber, how much the tires angle in on the top and out on the top can make a big difference. And if you've been on that set of tires for a long time, folks, you could ruin the inside of this tire, and that car's never going to handle. Only way to fix it is put a new set of tires on, like Tim said, and go at it again.
I'm bad to take those shortcuts, though.
Well, they're doing all that in the garage area. Bruce and Gaston, thank you very much for your question. Lots of work still going in the garage area here in the final minutes of this practice. Just under 30 minutes remaining here in the final practice session. Here is an Illinois native, Justin Allgaier, who finished 4th in the ARCA race here
let's
last
come on
year.
in here and get a tire sheet.
He's going to come in and get a tire sheet, like you said. And what that means, they're going to come in, a Goodyear Tire Rubber Company, and get check the right front tire, the right rear, left front, and left rear. In order they're going to do that, they'll start on the right front, go to the right rear, to the left rear, then the left front. That's the order they're going to check the tires, because the tires are cooled down real rapid. But the crew chief's going to get a good idea how this car's handling by looking at that tire sheet.
Justin Allgaier from Riverton, Illinois, and it was here a year ago that he got a chance to meet Roger Penske, and Roger was so impressed. A month later, he put him in his race car back in October of 2008 at Lowe's Motor Speedway. So as he comes to the garage area, let's take a closer look at Justin Allgaier.
Hi, my name is Justin Allgaier. My nickname is Little Gator, and I got that name because for years my dad's had the name of Gator, and when I started following my dad around all the races, everybody just started saying, hey, there's Little Gator. So that kind of stuck, and it's carried with me ever since. I started racing in quarter midgets when I was 5 years old, and it's really kind of a funny story because my mom got me into it, which is kind of abnormal compared to everything else. My mom is very nervous, I think, when it comes to racing. She goes up in the grandstands and she'll sit and watch every race.
You're as good as they get, buddy.
I've always wanted to go skydiving. I think that would be something that's really cool. Not sure that I would ever just go and decide to get in a plane one day and jump out, but maybe after my career's over and things are settled down a little bit, I might try it one of these days.
A lot of action coming your way from Chicago. Qualifying here tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN2 for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Of course, live flag-to-flag coverage beginning with NASCAR Countdown at 7:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. NASCAR Now, presented by 5 Hour Energy, Saturday 10 a.m. Eastern Time over on ESPN2. Sort of the pre-race edition. IndyCar action from Toronto. 1 o'clock Eastern Time, Marty Reed, Scott Goodyear and Company on ABC. NHRA Final Sunday, 7 Eastern on ESPN from Mopar Mile High in Denver. One car on the racetrack is the 10 car, but the 20 car, Joey Logano, is back on his way out after a lot of these guys now making some adjustments, and now Rusty here in the last 20 minutes or so getting ready to make some qualifying runs. The 32 car has already been out to make a qualifying run, and guess what? Brian Vickers now #1 on the chart.
Yeah, Jerry, we don't have much time left in practice right now. It looks like Joey Logano is going to make a run, although the front end of that car, I don't see a lot of tape on it yet, so it looks to me like he's still in a race run at this particular moment. But we're starting to run out of time right now, and this is the time when all the guys tape the front ends off, put new tires on, take them out on the course to see how fast they'll go for qualifying. Shannon?
Yeah, guys, the next run will actually be the qualifying run for the 20. The sticker tires are still sitting here in the garage. They did make a left rear shock change on that 20 car, so Dave Rogers told Joey to just go out, feel it out, see if the car is a little bit better for him. They'll bring it back in, get the car ready for their qual run.
Thank you, Shannon. So they're going to make the shock change first before they put those new tires on so they don't mess them up for that qualifying run. There's the sticker tires that they will be sitting there. And if you just joined our coverage, we mentioned at the top of the show, because of some abrasiveness of the racetrack, nothing with Goodyear, but the track is so abrasive, they have given these teams an extra set of tires here for the weekend.
Yeah, that's very unusual. I mean, there's a lot of racetracks we go to where they're pretty abrasive. They haven't been run on, and they don't do it there. I don't know what's up with this particular track, why that's happening, but I will tell you, it's not going to be an issue in my mind. I can always see this track, already see this track blackening up, getting darker, and that should definitely be easier on the tires.
Let's go down in the Stephen Wallace garage. Dave.
The Stephen Wallace garage is now devoid of a race car. The driver is out of the car. The crew chief is standing next to him. So let's first ask the driver, what'd you end up with after 24 laps in final practice?
Well, I feel like our U.S. Fidelis Chevrolet was really strong there. We brought a new car here to the track this week that we're, not real familiar about, so we kind of had to, work out some stuff there in the first practice, and believe we got the thing, handling real strong. So, past, 3 or 4 weeks has, been really good for us. So we're really looking forward to tomorrow, and, felt like our car was driving real good. So, Tripp said, hey, man, let's park this thing because, we don't want to, then really dial ourselves out here because we put on a, second set of tires, and the thing handled really good, but it just wasn't real fast. And I'm, starting to see that, looking at the lap tracker here, with a bunch of other cars, so called it quits.
All right, so Tripp, you've been with him a couple weeks now. Here's the big question. You understand this guy yet?
Oh, yeah. He's a pretty good race car driver here. He's got good feedback. I think what we worked on is just getting the cars balanced right. We get a lot of tire sheets from Goodyear, make things look even all the way around. We worked on that really hard. Car looks good. Tire sheets look good. Steve looks good on the track. I think we'll have a good race tomorrow.
All right, now, Doc, you got a driver and a crew chief in the Craftsman Tech Garage. Do they understand each other?
I'm not so sure they're ever going to understand each other, but we're going to find out what they have to say about what's happening in the garage, guys.
You want to tell them how much we've argued over the years?
We've argued a lot over the years. We always got along pretty good, though, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
I know one thing, though. If I had a car that good that I would stop practice early, I'd feel pretty confident sleeping tonight, because generally people don't stop early. They use all that practice time they possibly can up, and I've never seen this kid feel that good about his car.
Yeah, but you're buying the tires for that organization. I know that. If that were Roger Penske pay for those tires, you wouldn't quit till the guy threw the red and the black flag out there. But still yet, they're right. They're on their game. They're monitoring tire temperatures. Hey, they got the Goodyear sheet right here. You know, Tripp, he's got a lot of confidence in it. You turn to your driver, how do you feel? I feel like we ought to park it. Take his advice. You know, that's a good thing, because this man right here, that guy over there, he might be able to chip off the old block. He might be one of those guys coming in to that other Wallace regime.
Well, you know, one thing Steven said earlier, he said, we got a new car here we're not really familiar with, and what he meant was this is the first time that we got a new alliance with Kevin Harvick. That car that Steven's driving is Kevin Harvick's number 33 car. Never drove it in his life, so he's a little unfamiliar, but evidently it's really good.
Well, it goes to prove one thing. You put a good driver in a good race car and put a crew chief with him, he's supposed to win races and be effective.
So communication, some hand signals being done down the garage area, and now the 5 car, Ryan Newman, Andy, getting set for a qualifying run.
Yeah, they are, Doc. They brought the car in here, and they're putting new tires on the car. The way to make a fast lap at any racetrack is to put new tires on the car. You want to put as much tape on the grill as you can and not run hot. So what they do is they put ice in the cool down unit. They circulate water through the radiator and through the engine to cool it down, so they can put a lot of tape on it and make a couple laps without the engine overheating. They also fill it up with fuel, and you wonder, why would they fill it up with fuel to make a fast lap? Well, the reason they do that is because they're simulating the conditions tomorrow. They have to pass a technical inspection. They have to weigh a certain amount before they go on the track, so they have to fill it up with fuel to meet that minimum weight. So they fill it up with fuel, they cool the engine down, they put new tires on it and tape it up. And you guys know Ryan Newman is a qualifying machine, so he's going to go out there and see what this 5 car will do here in just a second, Doc.
He didn't get the nickname the Rocket Man for nothing, because he can certainly get it done in qualifying. There's a 66 car going now back through. They roll it back in just to check a few things after this practice is over?
Well, they want to make sure it's dead right, just like Andy Petrie just said. You got to pass the technical inspection procedure right here, and they want to know that they've got a really good car. They're happy with the way the car's running. They want to run it through tech just to make sure that everything's going to pass when they get ready to go qualify tomorrow.
If they qualify and if they race tomorrow night and you're at the top of your game, this is the guy you're going to have to beat. Kyle Busch, our points leader, and of course he won this race a year ago. Also won on Saturday night the Windy City Sweep, we call it, the only driver to sweep both events. And right now the 18 car is 5th quickest. It is Vickers, Logano, Bliss, Biffle, and then Kyle 5th overall. Final laps of practice for the NASCAR Nationwide cars here at Chicagoland Speedway. It is Brian Vickers, Joey Logano, Mike Bliss, Greg Biffle, and Kyle Busch, the top 5. And the 5 car, Andy Petrie, back on the racetrack for another mock run.
Yeah, they are, Doc. You can see they've got all the tape on the grill, and they're going to try to make these 2 laps and just see just how fast they can go. Looking at the guys here in the garage area, they're all studying the monitors and all, trying to see what this car is going to do. I was also over there talking to the 01 crew chief, Ricky Vyers, talking about tire wear. They said they were just about out of fuel, and you know, we talked about this earlier, they don't put tires on their car. They don't have enough really funding to be able to throw tires on it, so they are still on the first set of tires they started with, and they're just about out of fuel. So that ought to tell you how far this tire will go. I mean, these guys are really stretching it.
Andy, how do you dial a car in like that when you've only got 1 set of tires to work for an entire 90-minute session? I mean, how tough is that on a crew chief?
It's real tough, Doc. I was just down there talking to Ricky, and he says you just, you know, it's a whole different game for them because they have to work with what they have. He wears a hat that says it is what it is, and they have to deal with it. And he says it's definitely a challenge. He's, you know, it's not like he's used to racing, but he says they do with the best with what they've got, and that's what they're doing down here, and they're stretching the tire wear.
Let's see if Greg Biffle can stretch the speed a little bit. He was 4th quickest on the speed charts, now back on the racetrack. So in the final 10 minutes of this final practice session, guys trying to find speed. Also got to be talking a little bit about thinking about some fuel mileage. For this race has a history of being won on fuel mileage.
Yeah, this track is all about fuel mileage. It seems like it has been. Look, Biffle just jumps up to P1 now, position 1. But there are cars doing qualifying runs, Jerry, and there are some cars not doing qualifying runs. But if they're going to do it, they got to do it right now because we got less than 8 minutes of practice left, and that's real key. Hey, let's go back to this fuel mileage thing. We talked about fuel mileage here, how fuel mileage is so important and how many races have been won, but you were talking to Kevin Harvick today, and he made a comment about this.
Yeah, Kevin was saying with the new double file restarts, which began last week here in the Nationwide Series, he doesn't think the fuel mileage is going to be as big a factor because when you double up with the lead car side by side, you have to be aggressive and drive the car, and you're going to burn fuel. It's going to be very hard to save fuel and for someone to hang on out there and win a race on fuel mileage.
So no light foot. You got to stand on the throttle hard and burn that gas up. And Mike Bliss, this guy right here, has been burning the gas up of late. He won Charlotte this year. He's had a good run throughout the year with this James Finch car. And right now, I think that Mike Bliss is probably on a qualifying run. The way he's driving, the car looks real quick at the moment. And yeah, he just pops up at position 4. So he's 4th quick right now. It's a good run for Bliss.
Now the 20 car who had been the top of the speed charts for most of the day until Vickers and Biffle have gone out. Let's see if Joey Logano can go back and reclaim his spot as the fastest car on the track.
Yeah, Jerry, take a look at the front grille on this car. It's completely taped up. It's got a little slot open in the front for a little bit of air. So he is definitely on a qualifying run right now. New tires, full taped off. He's been the fastest car, you know, for the first 2 sessions. Let's see what happens right here. Car's getting in the corner, looks good, not loose, right dead on the bottom of the track, and it's not bouncing at all. The car looks real smooth, and when you get downforce, that's going to help a car not bounce a lot. It's going to keep the car pinned. Right now, he's 3rd quick at the moment, 31.09 seconds. He hasn't picked up any at all from the first run, so I would have thought he'd have run faster. Let's see what he does in his 2nd lap if he takes one.
Mile-and-a-half racetrack's very good for Joey Logano. Remember, he won his first race at Kentucky last year at the age of 18 years, 21 days. Also used this car to win at Kentucky this year from the pole.
Tell you what, if you run good with the car and you win with it, just keep bringing that baby back. Gives you a lot of confidence. Logano didn't pick up at all that 2nd lap. He's still 3rd quick. Still, he's a good car. But take a look at Carl Edwards right now. We talked about him being a 2nd half driver. Wow. Number 1. To the top of the, and boy, by a big margin too, 30.84. That is flat flying around this place. So Edwards got it going on.
I was over with Dan Stillman this afternoon. They were working so hard there in the truck, going over all the data and looking at all the graphs and things, the digital things they had from the computers, trying to find a way to get Carl Edwards up the charts on a mile-and-a-half racetrack where they have struggled this year. This might just work.
You're exactly right. This could work. I mean, he's still on. He's going for a 2nd lap, trying to get quicker yet.
And a 90 on the 2nd lap. That's a good job right there, man. Really good.
All right, he got it all the 1st lap on his qualifying run, and that's pretty indicative of what we're going to see tomorrow.
Let's see if the 88 has improved. Remember, they were struggling with a tire wear issue and some handling problems for Brad Keselowski.
Right now, Brad's 21st quick. He's been struggling like crazy. Like you said, he's got this baby taped off. He's going on a qualifying run, too. I didn't like what I just saw there. The car was really rough across a bump. The back of the car jumped up and down. But the front of the car looks good. It looks like it's sealed off to the bottom. Good looking run so far.
Yeah, I thought that was decent. Little tight, not bad. I don't know why, but the looseness in the middle was like a 1. I mean, it just is better. I don't know what we did different.
Don't drive me to drink it.
Well, one thing that might have helped that car, too, it's cooling down. And like Andy and I were talking earlier, when this track's cool down, it can definitely hook a car up. But the speed's still slow, 21st quick, so it must not be completely taped off. Let's look at his grill. From what I can see, it looks like it's still open.
We saw a little bit ago the 33 car changing all the shocks and trying to get quicker. And now Kevin Harvick on the racetrack. Shannon.
Well, right now the team has gone back to their standard mile-and-a-half package. They said that they were trying some new things in this practice and nothing stuck. And you guys obviously just talked about the 4 shocks. They had this car up on scales for probably like the last 20 minutes in this garage. They made a spindle change to the 33. And of course, Kevin Harvick heading back out there for the last couple minutes of practice, seeing if this 33 is even more hooked up now.
Shannon, that's a good point. Kevin come up to me before practice. He said, Rusty, Steven's car has got the package that I normally run, but I'm going to try something different on our car.
Like crazy.
Just moments ago, let's see what happened to the 33 car. A little smoke out of the car.
It looks like he's locking up the right front tire. Yeah, he's got the right front fender hitting. It looks.
He never got all the way up to speed, Rusty. He just pulled it down across the racetrack and didn't want to take a chance.
Yeah, he just pulled it off. But going back what I said a little while ago, he's made a geometry change in his car. Now he's going back to the normal tried and true. Dave, what's going on down there?
Greg Biffle debriefing a little bit with Eddie Pardue. Okay, we put on the fresh tires. We did the big number up there, but the bigger goal, making the car good for the race. How close did you guys get, Greg?
Well, the guys did a great job. First practice, I couldn't drive the City Financial Ford Fusion car, and Eddie and all these guys, Ryan, did a great job. But it's good, you know, qualifying trim, we struggled a little bit, but got it going. But real happy with it in race trim. We're running really good laps, and can't wait for tomorrow night.
Without looking at all the times and just racing around guys out there, can you tell how you're stacking up?
Yeah, I feel like we're a top 5 car for sure. We're about as good as 18, maybe. Practice times look maybe just a tick better, and that's pretty unusual to somebody faster than the 18, but we'll see tomorrow. You know, he'll probably pick it up.
Very good. Thanks, Greg. Back to you, Doc.
Greg Biffle, 2 wins this year on the season. Both races, Las Vegas and Phoenix, he led the most laps and won the race.
Doc, I got to tell you, these Fords look awful strong right now. Edwards is number 1, Biffle's number 2. We talked about the second half teams. These guys, it seems like the second half of the year, Edwards is doing the same thing he does again.
Saw Ernie Cope talking to Kevin Harvick a moment ago. Here's the 1 car back on the racetrack. Mike Bliss out again in the James Finch Chevy. This is again Hendrick horsepower. These are Hendrick engines, trying to pick it up from 5th to even quicker.
Well, they got plenty of horsepower in the aerodynamic. Ooh, a little loose right there. You see that thing kick the back of the car out, slid around a little bit. And that's exactly what happens on these cars. It's so hard to get a Nationwide Series car tight enough for qualifying. The drivers always tell you they're loose. And that's because they can't put a full-blown qualifying setup in the car. They've got to race this setup because they're in an impound race. And the impound is what you're going to race is what you've got to qualify with some minor adjustments.
Race starts about this exact time tomorrow night, and there is still quite a bit of sun on the racetrack. And watch the glare there coming off the corner.
Okay, that's a tough glare for a driver. The only thing he can do is put some tape on the windshield. He needs to run a clear shield across his helmet, so when it gets dark, he can still see.
That will wrap up the final practice for the NASCAR Nationwide cars. We'll come back and talk about who's quick and who's still struggling in just a moment.
NASCAR Nationwide Series Final Practice. Brought to you by Captain Morgan Original Spiced Rum. Drink responsibly. Captain's Orders. And Papa John's. Get 3 medium 3-topping pizzas for only $7 each.
Practice done here at Chicagoland Speedway, and teams are wrapping up now, hoping they got enough information to be able to get their cars qualified where they want them and raced where they're going to be in very competitive tomorrow night. Now, Tim Brewer, now these cars are in the garage area. If you're a crew chief, what are you doing now with your driver and team between now and qualifying tomorrow?
Jerry, the first thing I'm going to do is get the tire specialist, my engineer, my driver, myself. We're going to go up in the front of the truck. All the notes that we've taken all day long, it's a plus or a minus, good or bad. Then what we're going to have to do, that was race setup. We got to qualify now. Let's put our best race setup under it, and we'll figure out what we've got to do to the shock absorbers and the air pressure so that driver can lay us down a good qualifying lap so we can get a good pit tomorrow night.
Okay, Rusty Wallace, we saw some surprises in this practice session. Fords have never won at this racetrack, but we've got 2 Roush Fenway cars, 1-2 right now in terms of speed.
And we really do. I think you're going to see a resurgence of Roush Yates Racing engines, and all of a sudden, it seems like Carl Edwards got his act together right now. You know, he won over there at Milwaukee. For whatever reason, it seems like this guy's a second-half driver. And right now, man, he looks awful strong out there.
Remember, there's been only 1 2-time winner at this racetrack. That was Kevin Harvick, but there have been 4 first-time winners here. A lot of young faces up in the speed charts. Trevor Bayne, the 18-year-old, is there. Stephen Wallace has never won a NASCAR Nationwide race. He quit early, folks. Could he have the car to beat here tomorrow night? It is always exciting, always fun full of surprises here at Chicagoland Speedway as the NASCAR Nationwide Series cars and drivers come to the Windy City. They come here once a year. What a great sports town. Holy cow, NASCAR fans love watching what happens on a mile-and-a-half racetrack. We encourage you to watch tomorrow with qualifying at 3 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN2 and then live flag-to-flag coverage on ESPN at 7:30 Eastern Time. Coming up next, College Football Live presented by Mike's Hard Punch. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. So long, everybody.